Hi, I'm Paul Duchesne and welcome to Mama Paul in the Kitchen. This is part 4 in a series we've been doing talking about different dietary regimens and the kind of foods that I've been cooking for a while. And today I'm going to cook an egg. We're going to poach an egg today. I really like eggs, and for me breakfast includes an egg most days of the week. Probably 5 out of 7 days I'll do an egg for breakfast. I like poached eggs, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, hard-boiled eggs. My favorite are the poached eggs, and I really like poached eggs over something like buckwheat, like polenta, like rice. Now, a few weeks ago, I made a dish with buckwheat and potatoes, and I called it my mock corned beef hash. Today, we're going to finish it off as it should look as an end meal, as a finished breakfast with the poached egg on it, little vegetable on the side, and the salad. Let me get started by just turning everything on and getting everything going here. So the first thing we're going to do is get the water boiling, and I'm going to get some little pot of water here. I am going to add some salt and pepper to the water, a little bit of salt, and let's see, we got the better on the camera here. Yeah, that's better there. And a little bit of pepper. You always want to use, I've said this before, with pepper, you always want a freshly ground pepper. You don't want to shake it out of a pepper shaker. If it's been already ground up, it's nutritionally zero. It's an irritant. It's lost all of its value. When it's freshly ground and the oils are fresh, it's positively good for you. It heals what was damaged maybe with the other kind of, with the older pepper, and it doesn't act as an irritant. It's loaded with good nutritional value. We also add a little bit of vinegar to the water, and I started doing this a few years ago, not a lot, just a little drop. So put a little vinegar in the water, salt and pepper, put it on the stove. I also have a little frying pan back here, and I'll show you the frying pan. So this is an iron, a little iron pot. Now last week I showed you that I usually cook with a more of a restaurant style larger frying pan made out of stainless steel. This is iron. If I can use this small pot, I will use it. One of the reasons is I get iron in my system. Women notoriously need more iron, and a really good way to get some iron without spending it on a bottle or something you buy in the supplements is to use an iron frying pan or an iron baking pan. They're really useful. So little pan, I'll put on the back. I'm going to add a little bit of oil, and this is the oil that I use all the time. This is my cooking oil, which is a combination of the sesame and the coconut. And it's warmer today, so it's not when it gets too cold, it really gets solid, which is why I generally keep it on the stove near the pilot. So put a little squish in there. The heat's going around. Coat the whole pan a little bit. It doesn't need a lot of oil, this pan. It's been well seasoned over the years. And I'm going to add the buckwheat there. And let's get the buckwheat in the pan. The water is boiling for the egg. We'll use maybe 2 nice spatula fulls. Okay, this was the dish we made about, I think it was 2 weeks ago. And this is the buckwheat with the potatoes, the onions, and the red pepper, in this case orange pepper. Buckwheat is a great winter dish. It heats your body up. 2 hours after you eat it, you'll get a surge of heat, which you won't notice in the winter when it's cold, but if you ate this in the summer when it's warm, you would definitely notice this. And that's how I really discovered how dramatic the effects were of the heat-producing grain on your body. So, great winter vegetable. I look forward to the winter so I can eat my buckwheat. So we'll put that to the side. I started off with a squash here, and this is a nice butternut squash, and I've already cut it in half, and I've sort of got it I've had it in the toaster oven for about 40 minutes. I've actually have a finished product on the side here. Butternut squash, it's got a substantial amount of fiber. It's sweet, it's nutty, it's loaded with vitamin A, vitamin C, magnesium, potassium, and if you Google it, you'll find out there's about 10 more. Let me turn the flame down on that. Yeah, big time. In fact, let me put a flame tamer under it. I just want to heat this up. I don't want to burn it or overcook it. So the squash I've had cooking for, like I said, about 40 minutes at about 300, 350 degrees. It's done on the side. I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to crack the egg and put the egg into a little dish that I can then use to put into the boiling water. These are Judy's organic eggs from Petaluma, the chicken plucking capital of America. Okay, so I have my little egg in here, and we'll wait till the water comes to a boil, and then we're ready to do the buckwheat. The squash has already come out of the toaster oven, and I scooped out the seeds, got rid of them, and I kept a few slices on the side here. I'll put one of these slices on the plate with the meal. So when we started the program, I was talking about Ayurvedics and food combining and Mediterranean diet and macrobiotics, and over the years I've integrated a lot of them into my general diet. The important thing is that it works for you. What works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. And I'll give you a good example. In the book there was a book, Natural Therapies for Emphysema by Robert Greene, ND, nutritional doctor. And it's a really good introduction to food combining, among other things. But in the book, he talks about adding some hot and spicy foods to people with the kind of condition I have, which is emphysema. And he talks about using a lot of garlic and onions. Well, Ayurvedically, the garlic and onions are not good for me. They're foods that heat me up, heat up my system, because I'm Ayurvedically a Pitta type. It took experimentation for me to figure this out, but once I eliminated the garlic, one of the causes of the canker sores that I had had for 10 years, just boom, substantially got knocked in half. So don't believe everything you read in a health food book. Read what's good for you, or take the whole thing in, but work with what you think works for you. And that's the most important thing. And one way to do that is actually with a lot of people used to walk around health food stores with pendulums years ago. And the pendulum works. I used this on the show once before, and it's sort of like dowsing for water. It works, and I'll show you a little bit later. We'll take the finished meal and see whether it's good for me or not with the pendulum. It'll show us that. Okay, so we got the water coming to a boil, the buckwheat on the back there. Let's turn this up a little bit. And the squash. So we're going to get the plate going, and I'm going to put the salad on the plate first, because out of all of these things that I've come across with the food, for me, increasing the amount of raw food in my diet is really important. The more raw food I get in, the more enzymes I'm getting in, the more my body is getting flushed and cleansed. When you go on a fast, for instance, if you were to go on a fast, you would work your way into a fast by just doing raw foods. Maybe the day before you started the fast, you just have maybe salads and things like that. So you go from cooked foods to raw foods to, say, just juices if you're doing a fast. The raw foods are loaded with these enzymes which help flush your body. So you might take in a lot of toxins, but if you're getting them out, then you're keeping yourself balanced. And that's the key here, to keep yourself balanced. So I try to do 2 salads a day in addition to the fruit salad that I start the day with. So I start the day with the fruit salad, then I make a big salad, and I'll usually make it a big enough that I can have it for 2 more meals. So in this case, I made the salad the other day, and I just got a tiny bit left over, but so this is a little bit of lettuce, a little spinach, there's some jicama, red pepper, little celery in there, fennel, not a lot of greens. There was more on the plate yesterday, but it'll suffice. I don't need a lot of salad, I just need a little bit of salad. I'll have more on my dinner tonight probably. I've got everything except I don't have any salad dressing to put on. And the reason I don't is because it's the second time I'm doing this today, and I used up what I had. And the reason it's the second time is I blew it a few minutes ago. I did this whole thing, and as I was plating the food, putting the food on the plate, the camera was somewhere other than where it should be. So right now we're going to open up Lydia's, And this is the base that I use. It's the dried kale. She calls it a kale crunchy, herb de Provence. She's got 3 different versions of this. A spicy one, a southwest spicy. So what I do is I generally just take the whole bag, and with my fingers I break it all up. And I did this early on when I started the series. And like I said, I'll do this. So one bag will get me two portions, say. Okay, so that's about half the bag. And a little more. A little bit more. Okay. So what I'm going to add to this, I'm going to add the nutritional yeast, hemp seed, turmeric, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, raw cacao, dulse, seaweed, and a combination of about 20 other herbs. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of each into here. The water's at a boil over here right now. I'm going to let it boil for a minute. I'm going to put a tablespoon of this. That's a nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast was real popular years ago. It's not as popular now. It has a really nutty flavor. It's marvelous on popcorn. If you like popcorn, nutritional yeast is sensational on it. It's really tasty. Dulse, seaweed, and the reason I started the dulse is, that was the reason I started this whole thing. I wanted to get some dulse in my diet, and I'm not really crazy about seaweeds in general. But once I started adding them in, it's complemented the other items and gave me a good finished product. Cacao is an incredible superfood. Now this is the raw chocolate, and it's real crunchy, and it's almost like it's very much like a nuts and seeds. And it's something that you wouldn't want to eat by itself, but like I said, in combination, it's terrific, and it puts a good, strong superfood in your regimen. So we got this, put some straight turmeric, and I can't even get the spoon in there on this one. We'll put maybe a tablespoon in there. Okay. Put a tablespoon of turmeric powder in there, and sunflower seeds, and well, I'm getting all over the place here today, aren't I? Not my neatest day. And pumpkin seeds. Okay, so we got the pumpkin, the sunflower seeds. Now these were all herbs or seeds which Ayurvedically were good for my constitution. Most of these, if you're interested, you'll look yourself up, find out whether you're a Pitta, a Vata, a Kapha type, and then look up which foods and vegetables are good for you. Okay, we got 90% done. Now we'll put my little special mixture in, and this, I think I told you I got this. This was a Pitta spice mixture that was put together by a woman in Ashland, Oregon, and I've been duplicating it. I've got the jar, and I've just been duplicating the herbs in here ever since. And what we've gotten here is quite a few herbs in this. And I'll fill this up about maybe once a month. Coriander, dill, parsley, cumin. I don't do spirulina. I can't stand spirulina. Cardamom, anise, peppermint, basil, licorice, fennel, cinnamon, turmeric, raw sugar. I didn't put any sugar in there, and I didn't put any sea salt in. I don't need either of those. So I've adjusted that a little bit for myself also. So okay, I got this all together. That was good. And I think we got everything. Yeah. And look how gorgeous. I just love these things when you get them done like this right away. The color combination, especially with the turmeric and the hemp seeds and the layers. So we'll shake it up and run it through once, and then, okay, so I have my salad topping for the next week done, out of the way, finito. The buckwheat I can see is almost done. I'm going to put the egg in. Now what we did with the egg, this is interesting. I ran into this a couple of years ago also. poaching an egg, what they had recommended was the vinegar in the water, little salt and pepper, and then you create a circle. You stir it around. You stir the water around in a circle like so, getting a swirl going with like a little whirlpool there, and then drop the egg into the middle of that whirlpool. Well, what's happening here is the swirling is causing the white, the protein in the egg, to sort of stick to the whole thing, sort of stay together and not separate all over the pot. When you just put a egg into the boiling water, frequently what you wind up with is the white splattering all over the pot, and you wind up with losing half of your protein. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit, but the way that came to a boil right now, that's what we're looking for. That's what I see as the perfect spot for a poached egg. Is it sort of simmers in the boiling water, and when the foam starts to foam out at a certain temperature, you will see it, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's get the buckwheat on the plate. So the buckwheat will go a little bit crispy, not too crispy, a little bit crispy. And when you're cooking something like this, you can always add a little bit of water to it, and it'll sort of coat the bottom. It'll stop it from sticking. Okay, so I got my buckwheat here, my little salad over here, and the egg is just about, I would say perfect. So you can see it's starting to bubble up there. And you notice here, I want to show you, as it's starting to foam, that's when it's done. This is what I've noticed. Look at this. Oh my God. Is that a perfect? Oh, absolutely perfect. I mean, seriously. Look at that. And there's hardly any the protein, the white, lost from it. So the white is the protein, and the fat is the yolk there, and the combination is terrific. Some people don't do eggs. I sat at a Buddhist retreat once. It was one of these 10-day silent retreats, and a question got asked in the middle of it, and it got to be whether the egg was vegan or not. And talk about a chicken or egg discussion. I'll tell you, I was bored to tears as the two of them were having this debate for almost a half an hour. From my perspective, I will eat eggs quite a bit. Okay, so I've got the egg over here, and the last thing I'm going to add to the dish is a nice little slice of the butternut squash. Like I said, the butternut squash, it's sweet, it's nutty, and in terms of squash, a butternut squash makes a pumpkin. They put them in the same category, but realistically speaking, butternut squashes are yummy, delicious, and pumpkins are marginal. Oh God, that's absolutely spectacular. The last little thing, I forgot to mention it, a little scallion. I like to put a little scallion across the top of here, and then maybe a little tamari soy sauce on there also. So let me just give a few little swipes. Little scallion. And let me get a little green on the scallion also. I don't need a lot. Just a little goes a long way. All right. So the egg, then this goes across the top. Like so. Get rid of that. And a little soy sauce. Oh my goodness. Whoa. A little soy sauce. And the only thing we didn't finish was the salad. You want to put a little bit of oil. This is my olive oil that I use. And as you can see, I use a generous amount. A friend of mine was working with a dying patient a few years ago, and it was a little Italian guy, and this guy was like in his late 80s, and he had a little garden in the back, and he would consume at least a quarter of a cup of olive oil a day. This guy's skin was like a 50-year-old. I mean, he looked like a kid sometimes. It was unbelievable. All right, so there's the finished dish. A little squash there. It could have been any other vegetable, but today it's a squash. There's the salad, the buckwheat with the potatoes, poached egg, little scallions. Mwah! Let's do one thing to see how this tests. So I showed you these a while ago. I did this on one of the second shows, the pendulum. If you have a pendulum and you want to check, some people would walk through the food store holding a pendulum, and they would walk around, hold it over foods. Now you'll notice I'm not moving my fingers on the top here. I'm holding a free swinging, in this case it's a crystal, it could be a piece of metal, it could be your keys. And this is what dowsing is. People that go around dowsing. Now you'll see I'm getting this back and forth motion like that. Well, that is an effect that's getting stronger. This whole dish is terrific for me. This is really good for me. Okay, I'll show you something that's more than likely. Here, let's look at this. Now I have a jar here. This is brown sugar cubes over here. So in case you thought I was kidding you or I was making up things, let me just put this over the sugar cube while I'm still talking to the camera, not paying too much attention. And that's the key. The problem with doing this when you're talking is it's better if your mind is clear and you're not saying anything or doing anything. You're just sort of letting things flow freely. Having said that, I did this little experiment before the show and it worked. And whether it works right now, I'm not sure. But it had a really strong positive reaction to the meal over here, and now it's going negative. All right, it's definitely going negative. So that's a no. That's a no. Back and forth that way. And there you go. It's getting stronger and stronger. It takes a few seconds for the interaction to take place. Not good for me. Totally good for me. I'm going to give you one more recommendation because I have it out. It's 22 after. Let me just, if you like vinegar, this is not a paid endorsement. I just endorse things that I really like. And this is Stonewall Kitchens, and I believe they used to be, well, it says distributed by Stonewall Kitchens. I think they used to be Spectrum. I think Spectrum is now Stonewall Kitchen. This vinegar, most of their line is all organic, certified organic. This is the only thing in the line that's not certified organic. And this is it started off with what they call a 25-star balsamic vinegar. It's from Italy, from the Modena region, and is without a doubt the thickest, sweetest, most delicious balsamic vinegar there is in America. I guarantee you. You're not going to get anything like this. I've been to specialty stores with vinegar. Nothing comes close. This is the thickest. It's like drinking a syrup. And I get this for people. I've given it out as gifts. It's unbelievable. Balsamic vinegar, Stonewall Kitchen. It's called the Private Reserve. Oak wood aged. That was a little tip for the day. There we are. Peace, patience, persistence. And we'll try to do this again next week if we can. Thank you. Thanks for joining.